What is up, you beautiful, happy hustlers out there? Kerry Jack here, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Just enjoying this very moment right here and right now, baby. And in this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast, we have on Mr. Rich Christiansen, who is a thought leader, an educator, a mentor, a parallel entrepreneur, and a humanitarian. He has founded or co-founded 51 businesses. That's crazy, 51, of which 16 have become multi-million-dollar successes. Each was capitalized with $10,000 or less. And he has done business in over 14 countries. He's also the author of the Zigzag Principle, a Wall Street Journal and USA Today national best-selling book, and co-authored Bootstrap Business, as well as a couple others. He recently released a program on building family legacies. Together with his family, Rich loves to explore the canyons and the crest summits of high mountain peaks. And you guys are going to hear all about Rich's very inspiring story in this episode. And we really talk about entrepreneurship, how to, help others in your family start a business. Especially he does this with his 5 amazing sons. He has a business for each of them, or they created a business. And I thought it was a really interesting episode on how to really just, start a business and to how to help others do the same, especially if you have kids. This is a great episode for you. So without further ado, y'all, let's dive into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast after a quick message from this episode's sponsor. Real quick, guys, I just want to give a massive shout out to Nootopia, who is making my favorite nootropics on the market. These are brain optimizing supplements that really do make a difference. If you guys use your brain to make money, you got to check them out. Go to nootopia.com/happy hustle. Save yourself on their world domination box. That's 9 proprietary formulas to help you optimize your cognitive performance, baby. All right, now let's get back into this episode. All right, Rich Christiansen, welcome to the Happy Hustle Podcast, my man. I am super excited to connect.
Hey, great to be here, Terry. Thank you so much. Joint friend Garrett Gunderson said this is one I had to take, so thrilled to be here, my friend.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate Garrett. And, you have such an impressive resume, Rich. You have been around the block. I read the intro, but I was a little floored by some of the stats. Starting or at least co-founding over 50 businesses in this lifetime and having, I think you said 19 multi-million-dollar entities, plus you're a best-selling author. But what most impresses me about all of your resume is how you maintained your legacy with your family and how your kids and, their kids are now living these large lives, but they're doing it with the integrity, they're doing it with the love, and they're maintaining the balance throughout. And I just am so excited to dive into this topic on how to build a family legacy and how to use entrepreneurship to empower others and your family and really dive in. But before we get into all that good stuff, Rich, I want to ask you, what's something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
Oh, well, I can't give you one, but I can give you 3.
Give me 3.
How about 3 really quickly? Number 1 is everyone asks, how can you be creative and so logical at the same time? My father was blind. I was raised by a blind father that lost his eyes to retinoblastoma, the single smartest man on the earth. Wow. And my mother was a art teacher, 15 years his junior. So I'm the oldest child of a blind father and artistic mother. Number 2 is I'm an avid altitude climber. So each of my sons I've taken to altitude, and we love to climb the big mountains. Wow. And number 3, I've blown my Achilles tendon not once, but twice.
Oh, geez Louise. That's intense. Those are great facts. Have you climbed any mountains that I may know of?
Well, I mean, we'll probably talk about it when you poke me on rites of passage, but actually we didn't climb Machu Picchu, climbed Machu Picchu. I've been on Everest with my sons 3 or 4 times, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, cool. My mom climbed that one.
There you go. There's a couple you may know.
Awesome. That's really cool. Now, Rich, I do want to dive in and really kick things off with a bang. What is what is something that you see most of your billionaire and millionaire friends get wrong when it comes to wealth and leaving a legacy?
I think that there's, and if I could back up even a little bit beyond that, because I think that, even before the early stage don't get right. Could we start with that one, and then
Sure.
I'll talk about the financial aspect, and then I'm going to talk about the social aspect. I know you're leading the podcast, but man, I just preempted. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're good.
No, I want to give this one advice, because I've judged not thousands, hundreds, nearing thousands of business pitch competitions and mentored young entrepreneurs pretty much my whole life. Number one thing that most entrepreneurs get, young early stage entrepreneurs, is getting the channel right. Most go and attempt to build it, come up with some great website, they build some cool thing. That's exactly wrong. You need to sell it and then build it. So I use this beautiful modified version of the Porter model. I love the 5 forces, Michael E. Porter model, but dummy it way down. I always pull the channel out of barriers to entry. And even if everything else lights up like a Christmas tree positive, supplier, buyer, substitutes, competition, barriers to entry, even if those all light up positive, if I can't get the channel proper figured out on the front end, I don't start it. So that, by the way, that was a $10,000 bill you owe me.
For real.
Seriously, that's the number one reason for failure. I've actually only succeeded 17 businesses. I've failed 19. All but one of those 19 failures, all but one. And this is the guy that knows it, okay? This is the guy, you've never met a guy that's better at doing this than me. And 18 of my 19 failures were because I thought I had the channel right, I didn't get it. So channel. Early stage entrepreneurs, focus on the channel, sell it, then build it.
So in terms of channel, let's dive a little deeper there. What are the questions one should ask to identify the proper channel?
Well, it's more than identifying the channel, it's controlling the channel and actually have already locked up. If we're going to go build a water bottle company or soda company, great. You're going to build the best soda juice in the world. Question is your brother-in-law the one that controls the distribution, gets you into the shows? Being able to say, I'm going to do online marketing, that's not a channel. I'm going to sell it on Amazon. That's not a channel. You actually have to have the pins and cues and buttoned all the way up. So you've actually got the sell enabled. And most of the time that comes in, man, I'm jumping topics all over. Most people think it's about smarts, about being really intellectual. My power isn't, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm the oldest, most knife-bited guy you've ever met. I'm not the smartest. Don't ask me on to Jeopardy. I'll lose for you. But what really matters is that relationship capital. So the key people you know. Most of the deals and successes come from the relationship capital that we have. And so channel, at least for me, most of the time proceeds directly, a path directly correlated to my relationship capital.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're basically saying, in order to really proceed forward in a startup venture, you want to make sure that you control the distribution, you control the channel, you make sure that you can identify how you'll actually sell it and go to market.
That is exactly correct. And at this stage of my life, I don't only want to control, I want to own the channel. What does Walmart own? They don't own stores, they own a distribution channel. What is Amazon? Amazon is the channel. So anytime you can get yourself in a situation that you're controlling the channel, man, then you have something exceptionally powerful.
Wow. Love it.
That's the ultimate. And so if you can't own it, at least get to it. The advice I love to tell the young entrepreneurs, we just did a great big, really fun pitch competition for the state last week. And the comment I made that caused everyone to laugh is you can either host your own party and no one's going to show up, or you can go to Madonna's party. It's better to be a guest at the party and go to someone else's party. So if you're going to launch some new little fangled device or some project, go form a deal with someone in your relationship capital and go to their party. So someone already has an audience, and then don't ask them to do it for free. Okay, here's a second $10,000 tip, and I know we're not on the topic at all. We're going down, Carrie.
It's all right.
Maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth it. If you go to their party, then make sure that they win in spades. One of the tricks that I've used over and over and over is to simply make sure that whoever I'm doing business with or doing that referral gets a 15% referral fee. I could tell a fun little story there if you want me to.
Yeah, please.
Okay, when I was writing my second book, everyone says, you did this, you proved it once, but prove it again. And so I did, and my premise is with $5,000, I could create $1 million business in 1 year over a 50% margin. Wow. And so went back to New York, spent much of the expense on that, also stayed in a place probably shouldn't have stayed because it was kind of scary. And I had a lot of relationships back in New York from the time I'd ran one of the big companies back there. And so through a friend, he got me an introduction into it was Warner Music, I think. And I knew that they're having all sorts of problems with their optimization of their artists. And so went in all loaded for bear, and then actually beforehand actually loaded a couple. So I had the terms in my site ranking above theirs. Went in and the individual says, yeah, Rich, happy to do the introduction. And he said, I'll pay you 50%. He's like, yeah, right, sure, Rich. So we go in there, and it was another story, but a very fun story. I actually closed the deal, walked out of there with a
nice
$30,000 startup check. Okay, so I went from $5,000 to $30,000 in one 1 hour meeting. And then here's the point. Here's the fun part. I called him up and I says, right, hey, meet me down in Starbucks down on 14th and Broadway. And so showed up the next day, and I went to the bank, and we're in the back corner, and I pull out and says, thanks for meeting. Hey, I just wanted to give you your commission on this. And then I pull out a stack of $100 bills, and 1, 2, 3, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 10. Okay, so I went all the way doing that, and about halfway through, the whole audience is looking. He's looking at me in horror. It's like, have we got a drug deal going down here? What's going on? You can manage it. I whipped out $4,500 to him, slapped on the table, and says, thanks so much. And by the way, the $20,000 a month engagement going forward. And asked me, how much work did I have to do for the channel? First of all, I had to queue into the channel, so I was able to go forward. Second of all, how much work did I have to do? Well, he got us MTV. He got us Living Social. He got, Walmart. He got us across the board. And was it worth it for me? Yeah. And we went way over $1 million that first year. So that's a great example of go to someone else's party, don't host your own.
That's a really good point. And, this is a silly example, but I always think it's funny. It's like, what's the best boat out there? It's your friend's boat. It's like, because you don't have to pay to maintain it or to rent it or to put fuel in it. And it's like, you can enjoy it, and you can enjoy your friend's party, but also I love that you give a kickback and make that a part of your model, where it's not like, just this take mentality. There's always this transaction of value.
And it's actually sustainable that way. Please don't do it for free. Make sure you compensate, because then it's actually built in the mechanism indoors, and it's high motivation. I asked earlier, but Carrie, if I had dropped $4,500 for a 1 hour introduction, and then thereafter dropped that in all these accounts, would you take it serious versus a favor? You know what happened out of that.
Oh, yeah.
What happened out of that. So that's actually, I have 4 tools that I always run through, that I always filter ideas to determine stupid idea, good idea. Yeah. Once I get the idea vetted, the first thing I do is I don't start the business. I go validate and get the channel before I start it. And even then, it's 1 in 3. I start 3 businesses. One's mediocre, one's going to be a multi-million-dollar business. So the question then comes, how can I fail as quickly as I can the ones that are dogs? And that's where I do the process of guardrailing, and I'm just quoting Zigzag Principle. So if this strikes a chord, this is all, and I don't think we need to spend time on it. This is all documented in my book, The Zigzag Principle. But it's simply that model. Always focus on the channel. And again, I'll take my $10,000 consulting fee later.
Yeah, no, it's a really great point. And, I'm sure a lot of the happy hustlers are out there rethinking their whole business strategy now and wondering, okay, do I actually own the channel, or am I just renting it? Or maybe neither, maybe I'm just internet marketing, like you said. And
Well,
I
what is
think
internet marketing? I just love, I'm going to do paid ads. Okay, well, do you know actually how even to do that?
yeah,
I actually keep on my desk to this day my first $2 million mistake loss. Coolest technology ever. I keep it right in front of me to remind me exactly what I said earlier is sell it and then build it. We built this amazing, beautiful technology. And then, we recognized that although everybody loved it, we didn't have a channel to sell it through. And so the company actually ended up going bankrupt. And it's so important to control that channel. That's the single most crappy products. We see it all over the place. Sorry, I was with I won't say that. And anyone, but I was with a major executive of one of the major technology companies last night. And that major company does not have the best software. They do not have the best operating system. They do not have the best technology. As a matter of fact, it's god awful the worst. Here's the kicker. They control the channel, so it doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it's a great point. I think now you have me rethinking, the channel and how I can create more of it and more distribution. Like even with this podcast, this is my channel and it's something that I control. But then I'd like to sell my book through other channels. So now I'm just thinking for myself, but I think all the happy hustlers should identify what channels they can exploit, they can utilize to help sell their products and services and help make a positive impact on the world. Now, Rich, I am curious.
I want to shift one more time. And I know you got that question, but I just can't help myself but say this.
Go ahead.
It's so passionate. I know you probably heard it from Garrett also. Most people live in scarcity rather than abundance. And what I've discovered is, you can't do this with the takers. Adam Grant's Give and Take book was just phenomenal. So you have to make sure that you actually have givers. But inside your network, you build someone else, they build you. Why am I here? Well, Carrie, the only reason I'm here is my dear friend Garrett Gunderson actually says, Rich, you need to make sure you do that. He lifted me. I lift him. We lift Carrie. Carrie, I invite you to come join my podcast. See how easily that works? Does anybody lose? No. Is anyone diminish? No. So if you encircle yourself in your trust network or your very tight tribe, givers, everybody lifts everybody else, and it's an abundant world. And that's how most of the time you crack channels.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it really is just a real life example, how I love that quote by Tony Robbins, like the secret to living is giving, and it just giving to others. Really, that's where fulfillment comes from. And I want to dive into your backstory just enough where that people can understand this major transition. You went from, being a corporate executive to then a lean startup rock star and just crushing it in the entrepreneur game, which a lot of people don't make that transformation. It's very difficult for most. And I know a lot of the happy hustlers out there, some of them are aspiring entrepreneurs who want to be a full-time entrepreneur like Rich, but they don't know how to cross that chasm. And I'm just curious, can you give us a little backstory? How'd you go from, corporate executive to entrepreneur?
Yeah, I was very fortunate at a young age to be tapped. I grew up in a rural community, 2,000 of us if you count the cows. And when I married my wife, $500 in a Dodge Colt had been totaled 3 times, but a lot of work ethic. So very fortunate at a young age to get tapped by an amazing individual. So basically just mentored and coached me up, which was my primary indicator and lead to success. Young age, I was able to run one of the largest divisions of a really large company in the world, and was on that path. I got into an opportunity where, I was making a lot of money. I was quite honestly full of a lot of ego, but I was on the cusp of losing my family. And I didn't see it at the time. I was doing 200,000 miles a year, sleeping under my desk, and my mentor at the time, his name's Peter Horn, amazing individual, only non-Japanese person on the board of directors of Mitsubishi Electric. And he called me over for a chat. He would like to have a chat with Richard, which meant I had to jump on a plane, fly Salt Lake to Amsterdam, or Atlanta, Amsterdam, across the channel 22.5 hours later. I show up in Dr. Horn's office, and this was the conversation that we had, Carrie. Rich, I've called you together today. We're delighted with the progress you've made in the United States market. However, that is not the reason I called you here today. I called you here on a personal matter. Richard, you can replace anything in this life. You can replace jobs. You can replace money. You can even replace your nice Audi. What you cannot replace is, first of all, your health. Second of all, your trust relationships. And most importantly, your family. If you're back in work the next 2 weeks, you're fired.
Oh, wow. Shooed you out of there, huh?
Wished me out very awkwardly. I claimed I had a very awkward 22 and a half thinking ride home on the airplane. I'd been into India the year prior setting up technology. This was the very late, early 2000s. And brought back pertussis, proceeded to give it to my family. I had a 3-year-old son at the time, and I was so sick and I was vomiting through the night and just terrible. What am I doing? Well, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm sleeping under my desk. I'm on airplanes. It's horrific what I was doing. I was trying to be Mr. Fabulous. And my wife actually at one point got my 3-year-old son and had to go to the ICU and care for him. Where was I? And I'm thinking of all these just stupid things I was doing. I was so eager to get that darn brass ring that I was chasing this stupid stuff. And so I got home, super eager to go pick up this son, Nathan, and raced into his room. It was about 4:35 at night. Raced in his room, picked him up. He just went to sleep. And he looked at me and he started screaming and pushing me away. And I recognized that my son didn't even know who his father was.
Oh, wow.
Nathan didn't even know who he was. It so broke my heart that although it took about a year and a half for me to formally get out of the corporate world, that was the moment that I resolved and decided that was not the path I was going to be on. I have no doubt that I would have been a CEO of an Inc. 100 company right now if I hadn't done that. I would have done it, Carrie, without my wife, without my family, without my health. I likely would have had some really bad addictions and some really challenges. And quite frankly, I know I would have lost my soul because I've seen the inside of the boardroom. I know the games that are played. And I think that's what makes me so damn potent is I'm able to razor blade cut because I know what the games are getting played on the other side. So at that moment, I decided to take control of my life and I opted out and I chose this other life. Probably one of the things I'm most proud of in this world. At that point, shortly thereafter, my wife and I put this amazing modeling instruction in place for our entire family. And it yielded more joy, more happiness. I mean, I could care less about money, really. It's just an enabler. But I'm not the wealthiest man you've ever met, but you know what? I'm the most blessed man. I don't know anyone that has so much love. And my daughter-in-law's love. And guess who calls me his hero? I mean, he texted me twice last night. My son, Nathan, I'm his hero. I'm his role model and example in life.
Wow.
And he's thriving and amazing. Every one of my sons have created $1 million business when they're still in high school. We're jointly coupled. They kiss me on the forehead. They hug me tightly. My daughter-in-laws all joke with me and play Minecraft with me. And it's just, I look at the polarization of what I could have had versus didn't. What was the real wealth? I just, to come up and join this, I just left a group of about 30 billionaire families in their family offices. I guarantee you we're not talking about dissecting the channel or the Porter model. We're not talking about modeling. Every bit of the conversation revolves around 3 things. First of all, healing the wounds that we've created. Second of all, stabilizing our family. And third of all, how can I have impact and do good? End of the day, there's nothing more important in this world, Carrie. Nothing more important than what Dr. Horn told me.
Can you repeat those 3 things one more time? Healing the wounds we created.
Oh, well, okay, that was before it came down there and I just
Yeah.
riffed on that, but that's what we're talking about. It's healing the wounds that we've created. It's sustaining our family and making our family stable. And third of all, the impact that we can have in this world. That's what's really being taught in the room where it happens. And it all resolves back to that first beautiful interrupt. Thank God I had that interrupt in my life. Thank heavens above, I had that interrupt from Dr. Peter Horn. To this day, I get very emotional thinking about it because we can't replace our health. And that includes mental health and physical health and spiritual health. We can't replace our trust relationships, our most dear, trust, meaningful tribe relationships. And most importantly, we can't replace our family. And if we've done damage there, which we all do, we need to go heal it and make it right and use some of these great tools that we'll probably talk about here in a minute to actually do it. So that's where the real joy in life comes. And I know it doesn't sound, I love the book that David Brooks wrote a couple of years back, The Second Mountain, where he talked very clearly about the first mountain of fame and fortune and all that. You get to the top of it and it's like, woohoo, big deal. Now what, it doesn't change anything. The real mountain, the meaningful impact mountain is the relationship mountain and having meaningful impact.
I love it. Wow. I mean, I love to hear what's going on inside the room, with these 30 billionaire families, and they're not talking about the channels. They're talking about what really matters. And that's healing the wounds that you may have created, or that they may have created, sustaining, the family with, a legacy and creating that wealth that can serve for generations, and the impact that they really want to have on the world.
That's what it's all about. And it doesn't take wealth to do it. Wealth complicates it. He's not a friend, an associate of mine, and he's done so much good. If I told you this name, you wouldn't even believe that this was him. I'm not going to tell you who the name was, but he was commenting, he got a little bit emotional. He says, in all truthfulness, the wealth has not served my family well. And we've got to be really careful. It does complicate it. It complicates things. And much of the work that I'm doing, this new content that I'm releasing, Carrie, it is to the billionaire families and the tender conversations that we have. What's driving a lot of I vowed I would never, ever come public again after Zigzag. I don't need to be in the spotlight. I got enough internal fortitude. I don't need it. But this message is so darn important, and we've got to stop this cycle of destruction that we're on as entrepreneurs, that I kind of helped create the problem through my lean startup model. So now it's my responsibility to kind of help solve the problem a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And you could tell Rich is passionate about it. I just want to mention, Rich, I know you talk with your hands, but I think hitting the table so much might cause a little audio bomb in the listeners' ears.
Sorry about that,
guys. No worries. They're about it. It's great content. Now, I do want to talk about this wealth continuum and how you then now changed your mindset to this infinite entrepreneur. And I just love the names of both of them. And in our pre-interview chat, you started to tell me about them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to press record first, because this is some really high level, amazing concepts. Talk to us about the wealth continuum and then this infinite entrepreneur.
All right, this is a download that actually happened earlier this year that explains the what that I'm attempting to accomplish. So if you will picture an inverted infinity symbol, a vertical one, what happens is we climb our way up to the point that, oh, I've got to create a business. I've got to get control of my own life. So a lot of gathering information, a lot of gathering data, and you push really hard on doing that. And then at some point, flash, mine happened with Dr. Horn. I'm going to take control of my own life. I'm going to do this. And then typically what happens is lean startup. And again, that's why I'm the leader of that. In some ways, is the Zigzag Principle in early stage entrepreneurship. You drop into this cycle of just whatever it takes, sleeping under your desk, pushing it all hard, flying around, super energized, hypercharged. And that's oftentimes what it takes to get the creation started on an early stage company. But then you drop into a point, a more healthy middle spot on that infinite loop, where you're succeeding. You have a little bit of business and the business is going pretty well, and you drop into a healthy normative behavior. Then it hits wealth creation, where you actually start having some really nice wealth. Below that middle line, you then drop into that bottom part of the infinite circle, and that's where the destruction really starts happening, that honestly we mock. We stop producing value, we get really complacent, we have to start wearing fancy pants, thinking we have to have a private jet, and we go into lack of creation and production, and particularly those around us, it drops into a terrible loop. This is why most families that have generational wealth lose it. It's proven over and over and over again that after 3 generations, most wealth is lost, because either the individual, like this gentleman I was referring to, either just give it to charity in desperation, or say it's not serving them because lack of value occurs till you get to the bottom of that cycle, and it's actually death. That's where you see deep, deep addictions and abuse. And it can even, most of the time, it is private. It can be a great public persona, but this is why these wealthy families are just so captivated with the material, is to get out of that death cycle. Then tragically, it takes always 3 generations. It doesn't matter what practice you're in. It takes at least 3 generations to climb out of that destruction and then back into normalcy, healthy balance, and then push back up. If you'll picture the middle balance of that, that's what I call the middle way, the balanced way. In the middle circle of that, it's healthy and balanced. So what I'm attempting to do with a very influential individual in the wealthy space, Scott Ford is his name, hope you have him on your podcast, is tip that over and create what's called the infinite entrepreneur, where you live in balance with your family and driving your family with the resources that you have to have really good balance. Still flow then up into physical health, mental, social, spiritual, all aspects of health covered. Then that drops into wealth creation that then doesn't become a curse, but it drives and fuels the business that keeps the engine going. So you've got a infinite entrepreneur that doesn't stop, rather than this wealth continuum, drop up and then fall down the circle, die, fall out of desperation, climb back up. 3 generations later, they get another chance and then fall back down off the ladder, cracking their head wide open and bleeding out on the pavement to then have to climb back up. And tragically, that's what's happening with most wealthy families, and honestly, a lot of families in general. And although us entrepreneurs, we glorify the top part of that cycle, we mock the bottom part of that cycle, actually, the problems created on the top cycle. It's honestly your audience, the 25, 35-year-old young entrepreneurs. It was me. So my message is so resolved, man. Please don't do it. Get this thing in balance. And and I'm now Dr. Horn. I'm your Dr. Horn.
Yeah.
Don't jeopardize your health, your family, and your trust relationships. And that's the end of that rant, Gary.
No, it was a beautiful rant though, Rich. And, I just want to mention to you, the Happy Hustle has these 10 alignments as their framework. And a lot of the Happy Hustlers out there know this, but these are the 10 areas of life that I focus on. And it makes up this acronym, soul mapping. So you got selfless service is the S, O is optimize health, U is unplug digitally, L, loving relationships. So that's the soul part. Okay. Then you got the mapping part is mindful spirituality is the M, A is abundance financially, P, personal development, P, passionate hobbies, I, impactful work, and N, nature connection. So those are the 10 alignments, right? So here's what my framework is. And this is what the Happy Hustlers out there who actually practice it, we focus on each of these 10 areas of our life. But the key to balance, because balance isn't a finite destination, it's a never ending journey. You know that, right? Like to get in that infinite entrepreneur, it's a constant ebb and flow and requires tweaks and adjustments. So does balance in these 10 different areas. So what you do is you focus, or at least what I do is I focus on each of these 10 different areas, but one at a time, prioritizing each of them equally, right? So when I'm on a call with Rich, for this podcast, which would fall under impactful work, I'm all here. I'm focused. I'm not thinking about my fiance and what's for lunch. I'm not worried about when I'm going fly fishing and, talking later about my workout, right? Like those come in those different alignments and they have their due time. But that's the key to balance, in my opinion. And it really has been such a game changer. Now, for me, Rich, just to mention it, I measure myself every single Sunday in each of these 10 areas, 1 to 5. 5 is an A, 1 is an F. And so you measure yourself that way, what you measure, you can manage. And I have a quiz out there. All the happy hustlers probably know it, but if you don't, I highly recommend it. You go to thehappyhustle.com/assessment, and you can actually measure yourself every Sunday in each of these 10 different areas. That way, in the upcoming week, you know where to prioritize change. Maybe you look and you didn't donate enough in a selfless service. You didn't donate your time or your money or your expertise, so you can make a pivot. And that's how you can track your balance real time. And that's how you can stay in that center part of that infinite entrepreneur. And I just wanted to share that with you, Rich.
That's spectacular. What a beautiful alignment. I just take second position. You got pole position. You got this thing locked and loaded. So I hope everyone double listens, because you've got actually a very, very great metaphor for it. So now I've got to have you on my channel and have a conversation, because that was beautiful content.
Yeah, I would love to. And, it really is. It's been such a catalyst in my journey. I used to be what Rich describes, as this burned out entrepreneur, like where I just was hustling my face off, working 100+ hour weeks for my tech startup in New York City. And I burn out. I was, absolutely spent. We got the 7-figure VC funding deal. We had partnerships with Microsoft and IBM, and I couldn't take the money. And I moved to Bangkok, Thailand, and I figured out a better way to work and live. For 10 months, I was over there building the happy hustle and just figuring out how to make income and impact. And that's what it's all about. And that's what Rich is talking about here, is how you can make income and impact, but not lose your family, not lose the things that matter in your life in the process.
I just love the content. And I love the way that you framed that. You actually articulated it better than me. There's only one clarification I want to add to it. And it's that this middle balance way. If you picture the infinite entrepreneur of it's actually in flow. There's movement and balance in there. How boring would life be if you were just dead straight up? It's beautiful that you get to adjust your numbers every week. I'm so blessed that you're actually out of balance on something, because that's life experience. That's the reason we're down here on this earth, is to gain and grow our souls and to expand. And if it was just rule, I wish and bless my children with problems and challenges and sticky wickets. I just don't want them dropping off a cliff like we've been doing in that wealth continuum. So the trick is to have the flow, have the movement, have the ups and downs, figure it out without just jumping off the cliff, climbing back up, jumping off the cliff, climbing back up, jumping off the cliff, splatting our heads over and over for generations.
Yeah. And you touched on something so interesting, but persevering past those problems is where the growth actually takes place. When your children or yourself experiences adversity in any shape or form, that's where the growth takes place. And that's where you become a better version of yourself.
Well, and it's actually where the fun, and I know most people won't believe this, but it's dead straight up true. My peers and I don't sit around and say, let me tell you about my fancy company, or let me tell you about what we do. Is we show, let me show you this scar. Oh, I got one here. Let me, look at this bullet hole. It's the knife fights that we're in that we remember and kind of in some way celebrate, not necessarily the big fancy pants wins.
So true. Now, Rich, I do want to talk about legato and this amazing concept. I personally don't have kids yet, but I know I will be going through legato when I do. And I might even go through it early just so I'm ready for them, because this is all about starting your family off in the proper sequence of cultivating a business mindset for youth and really making sure that you're instilling and establishing, these empowered entrepreneurs so that you don't fall off the deep end, so that you don't have to hit the depths of despair before you wake up. Tell us about legato and tell us, what was the inspiration behind it?
Well, in full disclosure and transparency, I never intended to talk or share this modeling. as my wife and I had this interrupt, we did not want our kids to get messed up. And so we went looking for models. We found beautiful financial models of what to do with your family, but we didn't have anything for the morals, the ethics, what we wanted to live our family by. So being a true entrepreneur, my wife and I actually came up with this and invented this some like 25, 30 years ago and started to play it out in our family. Didn't tell anyone.
Cool.
A few friends found out about that and just started freaking out, and honestly kind of outed me on it. And then about a year ago, I had a remarkable download, a personal, just a life-changing experience that I was basically told, you have to bring this out. We got to stop dropping our little children into the pig pens here. So that's where it came from, and I'd be happy to go through it really quickly. I'll have to do it
please,
like a 60,000 foot jet flying over.
Please do.
So the infant entrepreneur and the wealth continuous is the what and the why. Here's the how you get your family out of the muck. Here's how you tip that infant over. And it's actually same modeling that we use in governments. It's the same modeling in universities. It's the same modeling in businesses. No one does it in their families. So the last 2 years, I've been working on a very specific program that modeled this through. And the first has to start with values. The platform base is the values. What were the values of your ancestors? What do you and your significant others value, and define and articulate it? We do in a business. Has anyone ever thought to articulate your values and put a value cloud in your family? More importantly, of what values you keep is which ones do you throw away? Which ones do you throw into the trash can? In my family and my wife's family, guilt and shame were the guaranteed go-to if you wanted any action. We have formally thrown those in the garbage can, removed them, but we very clearly have the values established. Bill, and you can't do any of this other. Everyone wants to quickly go build their family crest, or, oh, Rich, I want a family logo, or, oh, help me build my family's mission statement, constitution, to rights. You can't do it until you know what your values are, because your values, Carrie, is going to be different than mine. So get the values firm foundation. Then you start building these other pillars on top of it. The first one that I like to go to is a symbol. You've got a happy hustle smiley face symbol there. You got a logo. Yep. The Kiwanis Club has one. Every religion has one. The government has the flag. We salute the flag. Yeah. We have the Statue of Liberty. What are the symbols in your family? What are the symbols in your tribe? Most people don't have it. Guess what? I got bad news for you. The gangs have symbols.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
But the most important organization in the world doesn't have a symbol. Well, my family does. We have a symbol. We have mascot. We have characters. Every family member has their own color that represents them. You know how powerful and bonding and unifying it is to have a symbol? There's a reason why we all gravitate to it. I was in the hotel as the Milwaukee Bucks walked by. They were going to play the Utah Jazz. You get boos and cheers based on colors of shirts. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
So now you got the symbol. What's your family doctrine? You have a family mission statement. You have a family mantra. Do you have a family slogan? Do the right thing. Damn the torpedoes. Live strong. Die hard. Defenders of the faith. Do you have a family framework document? It's the guidance system and kind of the rules of engagement. And that was actually my first one. Stephen Covey was my mentor. And so awesome. I kind of had a cheat code on that one. And that was the first one we got really right. But I could talk for an hour and a half on the profound impact, just having that hanging on the wall in our family. If you don't have a family mission statement, I walk you through how to do that. The third piece is traditions. Traditions, again, gangs have them. Universities that I'm at, everyone walks down and sneaks on top of old Searle and has a kiss. Then you're like a true Thunderbird. We walk through the bell tower. It's the sensitive part of any organization. Religions are like the most deep resolved on that. And so what are your doctrine is this soul concept.
Soul mapping. Yeah.
Your soul mapping. So that's the doctrine, but I'd be willing to bet dollars for donuts you have traditions. One of them was, as you asked me something interesting about myself, most people didn't know. So that's a little tradition.
Yep.
In our families and tribes and non-traditional families, and I will emphasize that because this is more powerful in our beautiful non-traditional families than is our traditional families. You've got to define your quick cadences of accountability that you do to give expression, coupled with the very, very, very special ones that happen on a rarity that you hold private, tender, and don't publicly share. Those are the most powerful ones because that shows you're on the inside of the circle. That bonds you together like glue, like you can't imagine. The fourth one, the last one, is Rich's bolt-on that I did. This is my favorite one. What's your rites of passage? What are the rites of passage that you have in your tribe, your community, your family, your non-traditional family? Would you like me to share just really quick?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. I believe that these eights, I did a lot of these ages really matter. So I did a lot of kind of research to come to these. Eight is the age when we kind of come out of childhood. And at 8, we call it the 8 is great date. We take them for the first time. Kid gets to pick where they go to dinner. After dinner, we get into a private place. My wife is a nurse and very direct, and we talk about sex. We talk about technology, the dangers, bullying, and just boldly open the dialogue and never stop the open dialogue after that. So that's the first one, is 8. 12 is the first rights into young adulthood. At 12 years old, I take each of my sons. I have 5 sons, and then one adopted little Sherpa girl, but each of my sons, I take them to a third world country for not 1, not 2, but 3 weeks. The first week is about deep, deep bonding. We ride the elephants in India or go see the Taj Mahal. We walk on the Great Wall of China or just have a grand adventure to bond us. The second week, we go into crises of humanity. The Mother Teresa orphanages, or in Nepal, the little lost girls, where 100,000 little girls are brought in that are either sold into sexual slavery or their organs harvested, killed and their organs harvested, and hold and serve those little girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Talk about wake a 12-year-old up.
Yeah,
the
for
third
sure.
Week, we talk about what it means to be a Christiansen man. And again, if you don't know your values, you can't do this. And the 3 things that we teach, that's the context the rest of their life, they still refer to it. Protect, provide safe, white space for women. Protect our women and provide them full voice and power. And then also, we bolt jokingly on fix a lot of stuff. So that becomes the context for my 12-year-olds. Ask me how much entitlement there's ever been in my sons.
Wow. 0.
Double 0.
Double 0.
No,
So,
because they've held the little lost girls. They've served in the leper colonies, and they know, and they've got context. They're not worried about their cell phone. It's not a big deal. It's like respond to a text or not. They're not caught up in all that trauma. So that's the 12-year-old. You want to ask a question? Yeah. Can I jump to the 14?
One thing, what were those 3, what it means to be a Christiansen man?
We actually have 3 with a bold on. And again, this is tied to my values, but the first is to protect, to stand in front, to stand up and be a man.
Yep.
I don't want any of my sons growing up to be little boys living in my basement when they're 30 playing video games and grow up to be serial killers. I want them to be right. I'm sorry if I've offended anyone.
Nope, you didn't. You're good.
But here's the kicker, is that's my values, and that was my wife and I. So it's protect, provide, and to provide safe space for the women in our lives.
Okay.
And fix a lot of stuff.
Love it. Love it.
So,
okay. And so what's the next rite of passage age? This is so fascinating to me. I hope the happy hustlers are taking notes, because Rich is just giving you your playbook, his life's playbook.
Yeah, I'm doing a 60,000 foot fly view. So at the end, I'll give you some free resources. And then if you want to engage a way to do that, but we walk and model through this all. Awesome. This is the most important content. And you see why a little, Carrie. This is by far the most important content. I know everyone loves Zigzag and wants to talk. This is by far the most important thing I've done in my life so far. 14 years old, each of my sons climb with my wife to the top of a major world mountain peak. And we three have been stared up the throat of Everest, Kilimanjaro, some pretty major mountain peaks. And that last 1,000 foot, they go to the top balling.
Wow.
The principle learned there is private victories, not public victories. I want the power to come inside them. The worst scenario for me in the world, Carrie, would be for my kids to throw the winning touchdown and be carried off in the crowd. And that's the definition of who they are. The rest of their life chasing that. I want the power inside. Private victories, not public victories, and not afraid to do really hard things in private.
Wow.
So
Powerful.
that brings fortitude and strength. But quite frankly, I got a 19-year-old son. I trust him more than most of my very wealthy network. And so the internal fortitude to stand and do the right thing is the purpose of that 14-year-old trip. When my sons turned 16, they signed a contract with me and they agreed. From that point and forward, they'll never ask me for anything. I won't pay for things. As a matter of fact, they pay for our family vacations. They pay for dinners, and they pay for their own college, their own mission, and their car. And I've helped each one of my sons create their own business. The first three did create million-dollar businesses when they were still in high school. My second son did it twice. My fourth and fifth son opted not to, because by the age of 12 years old, they'd already saved for college, already had their car saved. They had everything. And Timmy wanted to write a best-selling book. So we wrote Toes Turn Purple with Timmy. And with Alex, we put my video studio in place. And he was done by the age of 9 years old, by the way.
Wow.
So at the age of 16, my sons have controlled their own life. The result of that is my 30-year-old son is chief technology officer of a multi-billion-dollar company. My second son just sold his second company. I don't know, by the way, they have to shut the business down when they go on the next rites of passage and give all the money back to the charity that they went and visited. So all of there is on their own. I believe every son must kill his father. And so I want them to kill me. I just want them to do it in games and other ways and go be their own man. I never want my sons will all do 10 times more than what I've done, because they're their own man doing their own way, their own path.
Yep.
So 16 is take accountability for my own life and provide my own way.
That's amazing. And I grew up in a blue collar entrepreneurial family. My dad was a mechanic and my mom was a chiropractor, and they both had their own businesses. And I learned early on the value of a dollar and how important it is to, really earn everything that you want in this life, because nothing is given, unless you are from a trust fund, and then you have all sorts of problems, down the road.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's why the trust fund babies all blow it and lose it is
yeah,
they
exactly.
actually have their control. It's not soul expanding.
Yeah.
And that's the reason. And I know a lot of people say, how can you close the businesses? And my response is, how in the heck can't you? And so actually the process of closing it and then giving that back is a beautiful, art form in it. And it's joyful to have my sons now take me to business and take control of their own lives. That's the fifth one. So I won't preempt that. The number one question I got here, so I'll just preempt it, is wow, how do you create all these businesses with your kids? And so let me just say that's what that final link is, the legatofamily.com, as we've filmed a special, and most of it's actually free, that walks through the tools we do and how you actually go about creating a business with your kid. So I've got a whole bunch of content for those of you that are just like, that's your question.
Yeah. Where can people go who are listening to this and, they're super interested and like diving in and at least getting some of the free resources and then maybe taking the next steps?
It's legatofamily.com. Two key pieces of resource on there. And again, most of it is free. And then if it's really deep, I'd invite you to engage and get to know what we're doing better. But on the Legato family, we have the basis of the family values and this infrastructure. And we also have a whole bunch of content there on, raising responsible teenagers and building businesses with your teenagers.
Love it.
That's the teenage one. Can I jump back to the final rites of passage quickly, and then I'll...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the next one shocks everyone. When they turn 18 years old, my son actually give all of their money back to charity, and then they go spend 2 years serving humanity. They learn another language and live like absolute paupers for 2 years. Our faith is Christian. And so that is focused, on Christianity and then just service and giving to others. So they live incredibly humbly, servicing very, very difficult. And it's hard for mother and I. It really is very difficult to let them go. But that turns them in. They go out. I think they're already 30 when they go out, but they come back with the wisdom of a 50-year-old. So that's the next one. 2 years ago, we bolted on another one that
Nice.
it's a really fun one. This is young adulthood, 23, 24, where I take them to a level 4 security prison and teach entrepreneurship and fatherhood to incarcerated individuals that have actually taken life or been involved in drug deals, with the understanding you go in terrified, see nothing but tattoos and destruction, and you walk out seeing nothing but purity and love. It's a deeply profound spiritual experience. You deserve a second chance. I deserve a second chance. We all deserve a second chance, and none of us want to be held accountable for the worst thing we've done. Most of the times, those individuals didn't even get a first chance. And how are you going to resolve some of the really big social problems that my generation created? And I apologize to my son when we go in. I'm sorry we've left you the mess with the environment. I'm sorry that we've got this terrible polarized society, but we can't fix it. It's on your backs. So the concept of that rites of passage is go and solve the really big problems, particularly the big social problems.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
That's your rites of passage, and that's the fourth pillar in the chain.
Wow. So you actually take them to maximum security prison, and they learn firsthand. I mean,
2 days.
Oh my goodness, 2 days. This was mind blowing for me. I hope the happy hustlers out there got as much value as I did. But I highly recommend go to legado family.com. Just dive in deeper, get some of the free resources, and then just see how you can start implementing some of this stuff in your family to really make that massive impact for years and years to come. Now, Rich, I do want to ask you a couple of my traditional happy hustle questions. I like to ask, what I like to deem happy hustle hacks. These are tips or tools or tactics, something in these different disciplines of life. First being health. You know how important health is in order to really make sure that you're, showing up for your family. You take care of yourself. And I'm curious, what is a happy hustle hack in regards to health that you do that you can share with the happy hustlers out there?
Breath work.
Breath work.
Never in a million years thought it would play such a profound role in my life, but private time in breath work, I get far more done. Clarity, insights, downloads. I couldn't go. I wish I discovered this when I was 30. I would have created 100 businesses, not 50, without the brain damage. Breath work. I love Soma breathing, but even the Wim Hof or any of the breath works are profoundly effective and something that I think a lot of the thought leaders are using now.
Yeah, I do breath work usually every day. And I do it in my cold plunge. And then I have a hot springs nearby. So here in Montana, we have a bunch of hot springs. So we'll have to get you out sometime and come do some hot springs. And
sounds fun. Sounds like you're a Wim Hof guy.
Yeah, I've done it. We had him on one of my past podcasts, Wim, and I was deep in the biohacking game for a while, but very cool. So let's talk about money too. I know we've talked about, it in acquiring wealth and whatnot, but what is a happy hustle hack in regards to money that you can share with the happy hustler? Something maybe to help them save or invest or spend wisely, something that you do.
I think the tip I'd give is the same one I give my sons when they're little is just put it into different boxes, different buckets, and just have it auto allocate. And a key part of that is make sure you give. Charitable giving is the first bucket I teach my children, and my wife and I do. 10% of everything we earn instantly goes back to serve humanity and to help. And I find when I give, I receive a lot better, and it just opens my mind to abundance. So I think that dividing into charitable giving, long-term savings, short-term savings, and then the spending resources, dividing into those 4 buckets, with the first always being charitable giving, puts you in an abundant mindset.
So true. Love that. And I'm a partner of 1% for the planet. And then I also have multiple auto pays that I just give away every single month to various eco causes. Mainly, I'm big into sustainability and helping save our planet. So I'd like to donate to those causes. And there's a lot of greenwashers out there, people who say they're doing good, but they really
Yeah.
aren't. So it's really important, though, to have that charitable giving bucket. Now, I do want to mention spirituality. Do you have a happy hustle hack in regards to spirituality? Maybe something that helps you connect with your creator or God or whatever you believe in. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. It's that you have faith is what's important. And I'm just curious if you have a practice that you could share.
Thank you so much for asking that. It really does mean a lot to me. And in all transparency, I raised a little Sherpa daughter. And so best boss I ever had was a Hindu. I'm a Christian. So I pull from all the practices profoundly. And I think that the comment I'd make is the important practice of prayer. But if we don't combine that with meditation, prayer is talking, but you better do listening. And so a meditative practice coupled with prayer is a pretty powerful 1-2 punch. So,
Wow.
and I know that I have so many friends and so many diverse perspectives, and whatever it is taking the moment to get silent, quiet, and listen, whether it's to the universe or God or nirvana connection or whatever you want to call it, taking the moment to get quiet and actually listen. So for me, it's prayer coupled with a deep meditative practice.
Love that.
I actually can I say something that may I actually refer myself as I'm a Mormon mystic monk.
I love it. A Mormon mystic monk. That's amazing. Now, I so appreciate your time with this Happy Hustle Hack section. I do want to ask you the rapid fire round, and then we will wrap this interview up. This is basically just where I ask you random questions and you answer honestly first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready, Rich?
I am ready.
All right. Favorite food? Go.
Thai food.
Favorite movie?
Ooh, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Nice. Favorite book?
Ooh, that's very, very hard. I want to say my own, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Great book. What's your spirit animal?
My spirit animal is a snow leopard.
Oh, very cool. What was your first hustle? First thing you did for money?
I sold night crawlers.
Nice. I love it.
Sold worm.
Best business advice?
Already gave it. Channel first.
Love it. If you had a billboard for the world to see, last piece of content that you ever created was on it, what does that billboard read?
Love. Give love.
Amazing. And 3 things you're most grateful for right now?
My health, my beautiful, beautiful, true love soulmate wife, and my precious family.
Love that. Wow, Rich, you crushed that rapid fire round, my man. That was impressive. I just want to take a moment first to acknowledge you, man. I mean, thank you for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom with myself and the Happy Hustlers. This was an amazingly powerful interview. And just thank you for showing up how you do in the world and creating such a powerful experience with the Legato family. It really is impactful work, and it truly is going to make a difference on so many people's lives who take action and go through it. So I'm just grateful for you. And
well, Carrie,
thank
you and thank you for this beautiful work that you're doing. Also, I didn't fully understand the context of the interview, but I do. I publicly invite you. I'll make sure that I have you on my channels now. So thank you for the good work you're doing.
Appreciate that, Rich. Now, any final words to the Happy Hustlers out there before I ask you the last question?
I think my final advice is just don't dream little and go do meaningful work. There's just not time for destructive work. Don't do anything. I love the statement, do it now, do it with a purpose, and make no small plan, for it hath not the magic to stir the soul of man. And I just would invite you not to dream small and to do meaningful work. And I know it's easy to get caught up in the fray and the noise of everything, but we're just at too critical of a time in the face of humanity to do small work.
Wow. Yeah. Powerful. Amen to that. Now, final question, Rich. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Well, I think that you just summed your happy hustle is the same thing as my infant entrepreneur. you do different words, and I'm just really grateful to be aligned with you and have had this interview, because a happy hustle means living my life in balance with my family and relationships, with my health, with my wealth, and also letting business just be the catalyst to it. It's not what my life defines. It's one component of the infinite entrepreneur, and that's happy hustle to me, my friend.
Love it. Mic drop. Rich Christiansen, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and listening, y'all. We are out. Peace and love.